Good Monday morning, everybody. I am back with a brand new DC update, and this one could be a little bit lengthy. I did grab a ton of photos, and on a few of these, we may dig a little deeper. I'm starting to pull up some of the articles so I can show you guys some important facts. So this is going to be a full-fledged update, and they will get a little more in-depth in the future as well. So if you stick to my channel, you are going to get all the DC goodness going forward. If you haven't already, please like the video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and you will be notified as I have new videos go up. So let's take a look at some of these photos. First up, we have a rumor. Now, this has not been confirmed just yet, but it says a Korean Huntress DCU film is in the works at DC Studios, and they are looking for Korean directors. This very well could, it says DCU film, which means it would fall under the DCU continuity. Again, with Batman coming up and them already having established the Batman universe, this could be a very real possibility, which would be a movie that takes place after the new Batman film. But again, I do have to reiterate that this is all of this information is up in the air at this stage. We don't even know if this universe is ever going to get off the ground because of everything that is happening in Hollywood and the money that Warner Brothers Discovery is bleeding. So this came across my feed, and it looks like Danny DeVito is open to reprising his Penguin role in Batman. Now, I don't know how this would ever happen, considering that that Batman died in the Flash movie and burying it up in the Clooney-verse. It just looks like they're done with the Michael Keaton Batman altogether, which would be a shame because he did a fantastic job in the Flash movie. He was the one highlight of the film. Now, this cracked me up when I saw this. It says, and I did pull up this article. It says, the Batman director aims to push it further or farther with Part 2. So I pulled up the article for this, and it was funny because him and the choreographer both said that they're looking to take the next film even further and more exciting. Well, I would certainly hope so. That should always be the goal of a sequel, to outdo the previous film. And honestly, the Batman was very lethargic. He was a slow-moving, slow-walking Batman. I still enjoyed the movie, but there wasn't a whole lot of action in it, and it was lacking that. And I'm actually going to, one thing I want you to notice about the costume here is how he has around the neck, and I pointed this out a long time ago before the movie came out. He actually has this collar around the cowl. And I'm going to point out the hypocrisy of the fandom out there on certain issues. It's going to probably be the last photo that I show today. And I'm actually going to refer back to this, which is going to be interesting. Now, again, this goes to something that I reported on a couple of weeks ago. It says, rumors Zack Snyder's DC movies will be moving to Netflix to join Zack Snyder's Justice League, which has already been acquired by Netflix. Rumor, Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman will be licensed from Max to Netflix. So it's going to be interesting to see if they'll be on both platforms or if they will just have it on Netflix. I honestly, I don't understand why. It's basically you're poaching your own company. You're taking your eggs out of one basket and putting them into another. Depending upon how much money they get paid, I could see that being a possibility, but then you're turning away from your fan base who's already subscribed to Max, because I can tell you that for these films, that's where I think about going if I want to watch them. Now, I own them, so I watch them off the discs, but if you're going to watch it, you think Max is the place, but hopefully they'll be in both. I think that would be beneficial for everybody, but we'll see what kind of a decision they make. Now, this came up. Now, this was a quote that actually happened prior to the actors being cast as Superman and Lois in the new Superman Legacy film. People kept asking him about the casting, and he came out and said it's not the audience's business to know. And there's more to that quote, and it was kind of interesting. He basically said it's a private thing between the directors and the actors, and basically the actors and their agents, and that the audience has no business to know that information. But they're going to be curious, and he's got to understand that people are going to continue to ask. He allowed himself to be in this position. He's got to be able to take the heat. Now, Sil Abdul came out and brought this to us, and I figured that this was still the case. It looks like Akiva Goldsman confirms once again that Constantine 2 is happening. Script has not been written yet. So there were rumors that this movie was dead a while back, that it was being buried, but James Gunn even came out, and I believe he said that this was still coming. This is going to fall probably under the Elseworlds, title, but it would have been nice to see this. I honestly thought back when we thought that Henry Cavill was coming back as Superman, and they announced that they were moving forward with some of this stuff, and then Constantine was coming out. I figured they were working towards a Justice League Dark film, but I have no hopes for that anymore. This will probably just be a standalone film in the Elseworlds title. So here's one of the things I wanted to pull up, and we're going to take a look at the article here. So Batman Forever Joel Schumacher cut runtime has been revealed. And we're going to see what this runtime is here. Some people thought it was going to be a little longer than it actually is. It says the report goes on to mention that the film, which has a runtime of 158 minutes or 2 hours and 38 minutes, is slower paced, and that while it would still need touch-ups in places like the score and visual effects, the film is allowed to breathe in a way that the original did not. So this is interesting. Some people thought this film was going to be much, much longer than this, but this is still quite a bit longer than the theatrical version. I would be up for this, even though I did not care for the last two films. I would love to see stuff that we've never seen before, and it would be awesome. The fact that this is getting talked about means there is a possibility this may get released in the future. You never know with what Warner Brothers Discovery is doing. We did have Zaslav came out. He did come out and say that there was a whole slate of stuff, from their past slate that has not been released, and he would like to do that in an effort to, make profit for the company. But everyone has to understand Warner Brothers Discovery is in such bad shape that the movies alone are not going to get them out of their $50 billion or so dollars in debt that they're in. It's not going to happen with the movie division. Now, this is freaking hilarious, and this just goes to show you, this is one of the reasons why I don't like Gunn. Gunn is all about Gunn, and I'm going to explain that here in a minute. But somebody asked him, still waiting for the next Blue Beetle trailer. James Gunn responded with, I'll try to find out when. I'm deep in Superman and Creature Commandos. Okay. He's deep in Superman and Creature Commandos. Does he not realize he is the DCU studio head? Everything has to go through him. He was hired as a CEO, a co-CEO with Peter Safran. I always said at the beginning, I would have been more okay with this if he was in charge instead of writing and directing everything. He has his hands in everything. And so I don't know. He's going to continue to get bombarded with this stuff, but he's still out there promoting Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which has had its studio run. He needs to either be in the DC camp, or I just don't even think he's fit for the job, to be honest with you. And he'd be better off just not making comments like this because it puts him in a bad light. It just does. He only cares about himself. He's only concerned with what he has going on. And we're going to look at some more stuff with him in a few minutes. Now, this is something else that was interesting that came across my plate, and we heard rumors about this in the past, and I don't know how much truth there is to this, but it says Tom Cruise was set to play Hal Jordan in DCEU, but is rumored to still be in the lead for the role in James Gunn's new DCU, and that it was why he was given the early screening of the Flash movie. I told you it would not surprise me if there were things happening behind the scenes because these two people praised this film. Both him and also, Stephen King. Because Stephen King, his Welcome to Derry, which is a spinoff from, the It series, is going to be heading to HBO Max. So he wants his brand promoted. And if this is true, Obviously, James Gunn is going to say good stuff about the studio, but we don't know 100% if this is true or not, and I'm always going to be upfront about whether something is a rumor or a fact, and this is one of those rumors, which we'll find out soon enough. Now, this was something funny. Somebody asked him, will Harcourt appear in Superman Legacy? And he said, no, she won't. Now, Gunn has been known to lie in the past about things that are happening, but hopefully he's gotten the message that what he was doing with Harcourt and this other guy from Peacemaker, that it was getting out of hand, that they did not need to be the freaking cameo of every single DC film. And considering that they're going away from the DCU, those characters should really not exist anymore anyway. So I'm hoping that Peacemaker is done. I'm hoping that they're doing a full reboot. And if they're not doing a full reboot, like he's indicating, that just further divides the fan base. It just does. It needs to either be a part of it or it needs to be completely its own thing. And I don't think James Gunn, I think he's going to toe the line here. All right, so here's the last big photo, and then we're going to talk about this this hypocrisy that I discussed at the beginning of the video. But The Flash is running out of steam at the global box office, with $5 million from 78 markets in its fourth weekend of release. The worldwide total stands at only $261 million, a catastrophic result given the film's $200 million price tag. Now, this is a flat-out lie by the mainstream media, Variety. They need to get their facts right if they are actually publishing this stuff like this. They're not like me. You know, I'm always going to bring you guys the news, but I'm always going to give my take on everything. Variety's not there to do that. They are there to give out actual information in regards to the industry. But we know it's way more than $200 million. It's north of $350 million, considering the reshoots and also the extra, the promotion for it. Like, outside of the Batman, this was the second most promoted film that I've ever seen them do. So the money spent was way more than $200 million. So this movie bombed. They lost. It's more like they lost more than $200 million on the film. Like, it's some crazy stuff. That film, and honestly, the film was not that bad. Like, I didn't think it was going to do that well, but I'm not talking this well. Or this bad, I should say. I didn't think it was going to do... I thought it was going to do more than Black Adam. But I didn't think it was going to reach, Man of Steel or Batman vs. Superman. This didn't even get to Black Adam. Like, this, for the amount of people and the amount of effort they put into this film, this is a freaking box office disaster for Warner Brothers Discovery. All right, so the last photo I have here today in regards to my DC update is this hypocrisy that I talked about. So the fandom out there constantly comes out and complains that Superman had to kill Zod in 2013's Man of Steel, and that was a horrible decision, that it ruined the character. It should have never gone that dark. It's not who Superman is. Superman doesn't kill. And in fact, it shows that Superman has killed Zod twice before in the comics. Now, people will say, well, that's just either Elseworlds or one-off stories or whatever it might be. And I'm not as familiar with Superman. I'm very familiar with Batman. I don't know when these two kills were. I didn't pull up the article. But the hypocrisy about this is, when the Batman came out, I said I hated the collar that he has around the cowl. And a lot of people, attacked me, and I said it's not canon. He wasn't like that in the comics. And they brought out, Batman by Gaslight, how in that one story he had a collar, so therefore it's canon. Well, I have to laugh at this because this is canon as well. So everybody's arguments get blown out of the water. And let's talk about what this means at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it just means that there are different versions of these characters, and people are going to like different versions of these characters. The one thing that I'm always going to defend, though, is the fact that if they start a story, they should finish it. You have to give the fans of that iteration some sort of closure. Warner Brothers has been known to tinker with things going all the way back to Superman 2, and they have been tinkering ever since. The only time the studio really stayed hands-off was when Nolan was doing the Batman trilogy, but I think they got in there a little bit in that third film, and it shows. But the first two films were incredible, and I still like the third film quite a bit, but it was nowhere near the level of the first two. And so the studio pretty much stayed out of it there, but there are different iterations of these characters, and certain people are going to like some versions and not others, and that's the way it's going to remain. And again, we should all have a chance to see those iterations completed to the end of their story. But this whole thing with the DCEU not having a completion and not having an end is going to damage the DC brand for many years. And if Warner Brothers Discovery does not fix it, their films are going to continue to suffer at the box office. It's just a fact. They have pissed off a huge portion of the fandom, and you can't do that, especially when you mock them on occasion. All right, so there's my update for the day. Again, if you stick to my channel, I will have updates coming, almost daily with the DC stuff, and I have a lot of other videos planned as well. So I'm going to be covering the box office once a week. I'm going to be covering upcoming movies and interesting movie news once a week. I'm going to be covering probably TV shows, probably not as often, but as I get information, I may do those once or twice a month. So there's lots of cool things coming up on my channel pretty soon, and I am going to be digging deep and going into some of these articles on occasion. So if you haven't already, again, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and you will be notified as I have new videos go up.